Well, hello everyone. Good afternoon on this beautiful Wednesday afternoon, the 9th of April, 2025. And we have a really interesting video this afternoon. And I pray that everyone uh, stays around for it. You know, it was released uh, the other day that Texas has passed a law nullifying the non-disclosure agreements when it comes to child sexual assault and adult sexual assault, which is an awesome step forward. We're going to look at that. And as you can see here on the thumbnail, firing squad for pedophiles. Idaho has passed a law that includes the firing squad as an option, the death penalty for child predators, for child pedophiles. And that's, I think that's good. I think Texas should implement that. And I think that should be implemented in all 50 states. And I say that because when you molest a child, you have taken that child's innocence, you have taken that child's humanity, that child's security, that child's self being, self worth, self respect. Everything's been stolen from that child by that predator that attacked them. I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand. I know the effects that that sexual assault has on a child. I've seen it in my own family. So the armchair quarterbacks out there um, that haven't been through it, don't comment. And there are those out there that have decided to mock me and mock my daughter over it. And I haven't decided yet. I might expose you too. I think I already have. But this is a very serious um, gathering here because we're talking about human beings. We're talking about human beings that are, have had something that is just, I mean, so horrendous happen to them. And yeah, I think a convicted child predator should sit in that chair and face a firing squad. Yes, I do. I've seen firsthand what happens to them. I've seen the victims. I've seen the parents of the victims after the children have committed suicide. I've been one of them I've been one of the officials that's had to talk with the parents. And that's something you don't forget. So, yes, it's very personal for me. So, um, what I'm going to get to here, because I'm going to be showing some videos, is and everything is the fair use disclaimer that allows us to use videos, images for purposes of commentary, just like the news media does. And what I think where we're going to start here is is the some statistics on sexual assault. And this is from the National Sexual Violence Resource Center. In the statistics here, 1 in 5 women in the United States have experienced completed or attempted rape during their lifetime. Nearly a quarter, or 24.8% of men in the U.S. have experienced some form of sexual contact and their sexual violence in their lifetime. Nationwide, 81% of women and 43% of men reported experiencing some form of sexual harassment and or sexual assault in their lifetime. 1 in 3 female victims of completed or attempted rape experienced it for the first time between the ages of 11 and 17. 1 in 4 men, about 1 in 4 male victims of completed or attempted rape first experienced it between the ages of 11 and 17. And it is estimated that 734,630 people were raped, including threatened, attempted, or completed rape in the United States in 2018. 40% of rapes and sexual assaults were reported to police in 2017, but only about 25% of those were reported to police in 2018. The prevalence of false reporting for sexual assault crime is low, between 2 and 10%. Almost 1 in 4 undergraduate women experience sexual assault or misconduct at 33 of the nation's major universities. And about half, 51.1% of female victims of rape reported being raped by an intimate partner, and 40.8% by an acquaintance. Over half, 52.4% of male victims report being raped by an acquaintance, and 15.1% by a stranger. The estimated lifetime cost of a rape is $122,461 per victim. I thought I'd start off with the statistics because it's very important that we understand what this is and what happens with these victims, and why that and why that I feel the way that I do, why that I'm speaking out on it. And we're going to look at the biblical aspect of it as well. What does the Bible have to say about harming children? Children, there's one penalty in the Bible that Jesus specifies, that it would be better. And what we'll do is I'm going to bring that up right now. Matthew 18, 5 through 7. And whoso shall receive one such little child in my name receiveth me. Now hear that. Jesus is saying whoever receives a child in his name receives him. But whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it would be better for him that a millstone were hanged around his neck and he were drowned in the depths of the sea. Woe unto the world because of offenses, for it must needs to be offenses come, but woe to the man by whom offenses cometh. Or woe to the man that committeth the offense. That's the one That's the one instance in the Bible that Jesus gives a penalty, a direct penalty. And it would be better for them that a millstone hung around their neck and they were drowned in the depths of the sea than what they're going to face when they stand before the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. So, no, I'm not playing with this. That's why my thumbnail is exactly what it is. Because harming a child is, it's probably the most despicable crime ever. Sexual assault in itself, like I've already gone through, is taking someone's humanity, whether it's a man or a woman, a boy or a girl. You attack them like that, that's taking their humanity, their very being. I've seen these children. I've seen these children after an assault and what they look like, how they act. And it's something that sticks with you. I mean, it it's it just it really it just sometimes I get, when I get into this, it really gets to me. And you know you don't have you don't really know what to say and how to say. But what I apologize. um, I'm gonna bring up uh, another. I'm gonna bring up another group. Is the rain is rain the National Sexual Assault Hotline? Supporting survivors, cultivating communities, and pursuing justice. And I know I've shown just the thumbnail of their website, but I'm going a little deeper uh, into them right now, so everyone can see. And some of their statistics is shocking. Every 9 minutes, a child is sexually abused. In fiscal year 2016 alone, Child Protective Services agencies substantiated or found strong evidence to indicate that 57,329 children were victims of sexual abuse. Of all the victims under 18, 2 out of 3 are ages 12 to 17. 1 in 9 girls and 1 in 20 boys under the age of 18 experienced sexual abuse or assault. 82% of all victims under 18 are female. Females ages 16 to 19 are 4 times more likely than the general population to be victims of rape, attempted rape, or sexual assault. The effects of child sexual abuse can be long lasting and affect the victim's mental health. Victims are more likely than non victims to experience the following mental health challenges. About 4 times more likely, about 4 times more likely to develop symptoms of drug abuse. About 4 times more likely to experience post-traumatic stress disorder as adults, about 3 times more likely to experience major depressive episodes as adults. Perpetrators of child sexual abuse are often related to the victim. As we see on the chart, child victims are often known to the perpetrator. 93% are known to the victim. Only 7% are strangers. 59% are acquaintances. 34% are family members. Out of the sexual abuse cases reported to the Child Protective Services in 2013, 47,000 men and 5,000 women were the alleged perpetrators. In 88% of the sexual abuse claims, the Child Protective Services substantiates or finds supporting evidence of the perpetrator is male. In 9% of the cases, they are female, and 3% are unknown. And then you can go into the RAINN. It's RAINN.org. Is their website. You know, the rape kit backlog is currently one of the biggest obstacles to prosecuting perpetrators of sexual violence. Here in Kentucky, I have seen the backlog of the rape kits that were at the state lab awaiting testing. And out of every 1,000 sexual assaults, only 310 are reported to the police. Now, to go a little bit deeper in statistics, every 68 seconds an American is sexually assaulted. In every 9 minutes, that victim is a child. Meanwhile, only 25 out of every 1,000 perpetrators will end up in prison. Now, the DNA evidence can increase the likelihood of holding a perpetrator accountable. I will tell you, if you're one of the individuals that have signed up for like Ancestry or 23andMe, one of those one of those family DNA kits that you see where your family is from, and I did to see where my family originated from. Your DNA is on file, and in the agreement, you have signed an authorization that your DNA can be released to law enforcement. And in fact, I believe it was the Golden State. If I have the name correct, the Golden State killer was identified using DNA from I believe it was 23andMe. So it was, and they found the perpetrator. Granted, he hadn't committed any crimes in many years, but they found him and he was prosecuted. So yes, there is justice. You know, now the good part, sexual violence has fallen by half in the last 20 years. But it can fall even more. We'll just we'll look a little bit here at the statistics. I'm bringing you all this because it's important for everyone to understand the scope of the problem. We, as I've said before, we see, um, you see the commentaries from myself and others. You see the news reports talking about, a sexual assault, but you don't know the details behind it. And yes, this is kind of the very dry stuff instead of videos and um, commentary like that, maybe a little comedy thrown in. But this is something that needs to be, that you need to see, especially those out there with the certain accounts on X, like the Department of Church Accountability. We know who you are. So, don't play those games. Don't play those games. You're just as much in danger as anyone else. So that was just one that popped up. But we'll go into a little bit more of it. I got some information I think everybody will find very interesting. So, how often does sexual assault occur in the United States? 80,600 inmates in the criminal justice system were sexually assaulted or raped. I used to work in the criminal justice in the jail system, and I've seen it happen. 60,000 children 60,000 children were victims of substantiated or indicated sexual abuse. There's one little child right now that has spurred all this on, and that's justice for baby Lamb. A 5-year-old girl, and yes, we have to say alleged. For right now, we have to say alleged. I believe there's a sexual assault investigation open, and we're going to get to that, Texas and the doing away with the non-disclosure agreements covering up sexual assault. And whoever had them sign that for that very reason needs to go to jail too, Joni Lamb. Okay. 433,648 Americans 12 and older were sexually assaulted or raped. Military members. Military is not immune from it. 18,900 experienced unwanted sexual contact. That's both men and women. Every 68 seconds, another American is sexually assaulted. 1 out of every 6 American women has been the victim of an attempted or completed rape in their lifetime. 14.8% completed, 2.8% attempted. And I'm probably repeating some of these statistics, but needs to be. About 3% of American men, or 1 in 33, have experienced an attempted or completed rape in their lifetime. From 2009 to 2013, Child Protective Services agencies substantiated or found strong evidence to indicate that 63,000 children a year were victims of sexual abuse. A majority of the child victims are 12 to 17. Of victims under the age of 18, 34% of the victims of sexual assault and rape are under the age of 12, and 66% of the victims of sexual assault and rape are ages 12 to 17. 9 out of every 10 victims of rape are female. The majority of sexual assaults occur at or near the victim's home. And a breakdown of the sexual assault locations: 55% at or near the victim's home, 15% in an open public place, 12% at or near a relative's home, 10% in an enclosed but public area such as a parking lot or garage, and 8% on school property. Now, what was the survivor doing when the crime occurred? 48% were sleeping or performing another activity at home. 29% were traveling to and from work or school, or traveling to shop or run errands. 12% were working, 7% attending school, 5% were doing an unknown or other activity. Go back to children and teens. Every 9 minutes, I believe I believe I've already, that's what I covered the first time I was reading this before, and I realized I'd already had that open. Victims of sexual violence. Sexual violence affects millions of Americans. Every 68 seconds, an American is sexually assaulted. In the time that I've been live, 27 minutes and 14 seconds, how many have been sexually assaulted? On average, there are 463,634 victims aged 12 or over of rape and sexual assault each year. Younger people are at the highest risk of sexual violence. 15% age 12 to 17, 54% 18 to 34, 28% 35 to 64, and 65 and over 3%. Ages 12 to 34 are the highest risk for rape and sexual assault. Those 65 and older are 92% less likely than 12 to 24-year-olds to be victims of rape or sexual assault, and 83% are less likely than 25 to 49-year-olds. And women or girls experience sexual violence at higher rates. 1 out of every 6 American women has been the victim of an attempted or completed rape in her lifetime. Now, men and boys are not immune from this either. Not at all. Millions of men in the United States have been victims of rape. As of 1998, 2.78 million men in the U.S. have been victims of an attempted or completed rape. About 3% of American men, or 1 in 33, have experienced an attempted or completed rape in their lifetime. 1 out of 10 rape victims are male. Now, long-term effects sexual violence can have on victims. And it's very important to go over this again. I've touched on it once, but I'm gonna go through it again. I just want to make sure everyone understands. So please bear with me. And if you're watching this, please go back and watch it again. Share this video with others. Share this with your family, because I'm going to give you pointers here to protect yourself, what you can do. And you do not have to be a victim. I mean, this, like I say, this hits home for me. So that's why I'm going into it. The likelihood that a person suffers suicidal or depressive thoughts increases after sexual violence. Yes, it does. I'm gonna bring myself up here. Yes, it most certainly does. When you're the one that has gone in after a suicide and you see that person hanging there by a ligature, whether it's a rope, a belt, a bungee cord, a garden hose, and yes, I'm saying what I've gone in and seen. And then you see this person was the victim of sexual assault. And I've had both men and women, adults and children that have done that. Yes, it gets to you. They're gone, but the family's there. And I'm talking to the family. I'm talking to the family. The police are, the detectives, child protective services, if it's a child. So, yes, it's personal. And I think my feelings are coming through very plainly. It's personal when it comes to this. So we'll go back. So we'll go back here. 94% of women who are raped experience symptoms of post traumatic stress disorder during 2 weeks following the rape. 30% of women report symptoms of PTSD 9 months after. 33% of women who are raped contemplate suicide. 13% of women who are raped attempt suicide. Approximately 70% of rape or sexual assault victims experience moderate to severe distress, a larger percentage than for any other violent crime. Remember, I said it takes a person's humanity, their personality, their very being. People who have been sexually assaulted are more likely to use drugs than the general public. 3.4 times more likely to use marijuana, 6 times more likely to use cocaine, 10 times more likely to use other major drugs. Sexual violence also affects the victim's relationship with their family, friends, and coworkers. If you've never been around somebody who's been raped or attempted rape, you've never seen their reactions. Something will if there's something that triggers them, and you see how they react, you don't forget it. 38% of sexual violence experience work or school problems, which can include significant problems with a boss, coworker, or peer. 37% experience family or friend problems, including getting into arguments more frequently than before, not feeling able to trust their family or friends, not feeling as close to them as before the crime. Yeah, because you've lost your trust. They've taken your humanity. 84% of survivors who were victimized by an intimate partner experienced professional or emotional issues, including moderate to severe distress or increased problems at work or school. 79% of survivors who were victimized by a family member or close friend or acquaintance experienced professional or emotional issues, including moderate to severe distress or increased problems at work or school. 67% of survivors who were victimized by a stranger experienced professional or emotional issues, including moderate to severe distress or increased problems at work or school. Now, for the other part, victims are at risk of pregnancy and sexually transmitted infections. Studies suggest that the chance of getting pregnant from one-time unprotected intercourse is 3.1 to 5%, depending on a multitude of factors, including the time of the month intercourse occurs or whether contraceptives are used, at, and the age of the female. The average number of rapes and sexual assaults against female of childbearing age is approximately 250,000. Thus, the number of children conceived from rape each year in the United States might range from 7,750 to 12,500. This is a very general estimate, and the actual number may differ. The statistic presents information from a number of different studies. Further, this information may not take into account the factors which increase or decrease the likelihood of pregnancy, including but not limited to impact of birth control or condom use at the time of the attack or infertility. RAIN presents this data for educational purposes only and strongly recommends the use of citations to review sources for more information and detail. That's the part of it that's not spoken of. Is you have a female victim that's been raped and she gets pregnant from that rape. Okay, that child, that child didn't ask to be conceived. So what's going to happen with that child? That victim is faced with the option of abortion. Then if she goes through with the abortion, and that's a whole nother issue that I'll just go as far to say abortion creates its own problems, its own mental, physical, and emotional issues for the mother. I know people that have had abortions. I know a couple of women that are just absolutely cold as ice. And I know others that that had an abortion that has absolutely almost destroyed their life. So now add the pregnancy on top of being raped. That child didn't ask to be conceived. So, they're faced, are we going to abort it? Am I going to have it? Am I going to keep it? Am I going to give it up for adoption? That's a whole set of issues that had she not been raped, she wouldn't have to face, but they've got to face it. Then they've got to face, is it going to happen again to her? What happens to the perpetrator? Is the perpetrator caught? So it's a whole, just the whole aspect of it has not been talked about till now. And I just feel that the Lord has had me do this to put this out there, to kind of put a face to it, as it were. Native Americans are at the greatest risk of sexual violence. On average, American Indians ages 12 and older experience 5,900 sexual assaults a year. American Indians are twice as likely to experience a rape, sexual assault as compared to all other races. 41% of the sexual assaults against American Indians are committed by a stranger, 34% by an acquaintance, and 25% by an intimate partner or family member. Sexual violence affects thousands of prisoners across the country. And that's something that the general public really doesn't know about. An estimated 80,600 inmates each year experience sexual violence while in prison or jail. 60% of all sexual violence against inmates is perpetrated by jail or prison staff. Yeah. More than 50% of sexual contact between inmate and staff member, all of which is illegal, is non consensual. Now, even though the inmate may want to agree to have sexual relations with the staff member, now this is whether it's a male or a female inmate or a male or a female staff member, that inmate is incapable of consent because they are a prisoner. That's something that you may not have known. Sexual violence in the military often goes unreported. No surprise there. 6,053 military members reported experienced sexual assault during military service in fiscal year 2018. The DoD estimates approximately 20,500 service members experienced sexual assault that year. The DoD estimates 6.2% of active duty women and 0.7% of active duty men experienced sexual assault in fiscal year 2018. And I think we kind of went through this a little bit about the perpetrators. You know, who commits the sexual assaults? Yes, it's both men and women that commit it. You know, 8 out of 10 rapes are committed by someone known to the victim. 19.5% are committed by a stranger. 39% are committed by an acquaintance. 33% by a former spouse, boyfriend, or girlfriend. 6% by more than one person or victim the victim cannot remember, and 2.5% are by a non-spouse relative. The majority of children and teen victims know the perpetrator. They know who it is. Usually it's a family member or a neighbor or an acquaintance. Of the sexual abuse cases reported to law enforcement, 93% of juvenile victims knew the perpetrator. As I was saying, 59% were acquaintances, 34% were family members, 7% were strangers to the victim. Victims of sexual violence who are incarcerated are the most likely to be assaulted by jail or prison staff, unfortunately. In jail or prison, 60% of all sexual violence against inmates is perpetrated by the institution's staff. And that's abhorrent. You know, I worked in corrections for many years as part of it, as part of my law enforcement. And that, no, no, no. And I saw staff, one institution that I worked at, I saw a couple staff members walked out in handcuffs for that very reason. Half of perpetrators are 30 years or older. 50%, 30 years and older. 25%, 21 to 29, 18 to 20, and 15% are 17 or younger. Race of the perpetrators, 57 are white, 27 are black, 8% unknown ethnicity, 6% other, 1% mixed group. And obviously, perpetrators of sexual violence often have criminal histories. You know, perpetrators of rape are often serial criminals. One out of every 1,000 suspected rape perpetrators referred to prosecutors out of 370 have at least one prior felony conviction, including 100 who have 5 or more. 520 will be released either because they posted bail or for other reasons while awaiting trial. 70% of released perpetrators will be rearrested for committing another crime before their case is decided. Seen that happen. Many times I've arrested a perpetrator who was out on bail for a crime other than a sexual crime, but I've arrested people that's been out on bail. So like I said, you're welcome to go to Rain's website, look at these stats. We'll go down here. When convicted, perpetrators are spending more time in prison. In 2013, there are 161,000 state inmates incarcerated as punishment for sexual violence crimes. That's about 12% of all state inmates. These inmates are staying longer in prison. The median time served for sexual violence convicts have increased 10 months since 2002, from 38 to 48 months time served. Of course, we haven't talked about weapons. In 11% of rape and sexual assault incidents, the perpetrator used a weapon. 6% a gun, 4% a knife, 1% something else. Hands and feet and teeth are considered weapons, believe it or not. Used against the victim's sexual violence in about 2 out of 3 cases. 90% of rapes and sexual assaults are perpetrated by one offender. 10% are perpetrated by 2 or more. If you go out and have a gang rape, but I'll bring Brain's website up, or the page up again, before we end today. To get help 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can call or chat. The National Sexual Assault Hotline, 1-800-656-HOPE. They got an online chat or WhatsApp. So if you've been a victim of sexual assault, report it. You're not alone. Call 911. Go to the police. Go to a hospital. Go to a hospital emergency room. They're a safe space. Go to a fire department. Go to a fire station. They're a safe spot. They will get you help. If you've been assaulted, by all means, get away from your perpetrator if you can. Now, where we're going to go here is we're going to look at the Texas law, Trey's law, that and if you remember Cindy Clemenshire from Robert Morris from Gateway Church, she testified to get Trey's law passed in the Texas legislature. The Texas House, this is dated yesterday, and this is on the Roy's report. The Texas House today unanimously passed a proposed state law to prohibit non-disclosure agreements involving child sexual abuse and adult sexual assault. House Bill 748, which is titled Trey's Law, in honor of Trey Carlock, a victim of child sexual abuse who took his life, passed 149 to 0. The bill, which applies to civil settlements, would nullify any NDA or non disclosure agreement that keeps victims of abuse or trafficking from disclosing their abuse, as previously reported by the Roy's Report. No more NDAs to silence victims of child sexual abuse. No more protecting predators. Today we stand with survivors. Today we choose justice, truth, and courage. That's Representative Jeff Leach, who authored the bill. He posted on X. And then Representative Mitch Little, co-sponsor of Trey's Law, said in a floor speech that the Texas House is making a statement that silence is no longer for sale in the state of Texas. Abuse victims advocate Elizabeth Carlock Phillips praised Little's powerful speech in a post on X. These words are a shot across the bow to institutions who may be opposing us in prioritizing self-protection over giving victims of child sexual assault and trafficking their voices back. I can think of one right now.
Mr. Little in favor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the House. I want to first express my sincere thanks to Chairman Leach for his leadership and partnership in advancing this important bill. As an attorney, I've had the great honor of representing both minor children and adult victims of sexual abuse. The situations that required my representation have been horrific. A little girl who was molested by one of her pastors in the middle of the night at a church summer camp. A woman raped by a member of her prayer team at her church who had a history of sexual violence that was known to the church. A boy who was ruthlessly bullied and sexually assaulted by his classmates at a therapeutic boarding school. I'm going to share with you a hard truth. In litigation, the most valuable thing that these boys and girls had to sell was their silence. The purpose of this legislation is to notify sexual abusers and the organizations that harbor them that silence is no longer for sale in the state of Texas. Information about abuse is information the state of Texas should decide as a matter of public policy needs to be in the public domain. There are too many situations where a culture of concealment gives rise to future victimization and an inability to exclude abusers from environments where potential victims are plentiful. Please hear me. The heartbeat of this bill is to set captives free. Trey Carlock is the person for whom Trey's Law is named. The secret he was required by contract to keep was corroding his soul, and it shouldn't have. He did nothing wrong, didn't deserve the abuse that he suffered. It's my hope that this law is even a small consolation to his family and will allow others to heal on his behalf. I know there are faith leaders who may be concerned about the impact of this law. I have been one of you. I myself served on the board of a megachurch for 6 years. The message I would like to communicate to you is that no building, no legal fiction, no bank account is worth our souls or the souls of those that we are committed to protecting. We must put others first. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That pretty much says it all. Thank you, Texas. I can think of a 5-year-old child right now. There are those, and like I say, we have to call it alleged, but there are those that know what happened, that know the truth, and they've all been required to sign an NDA. Well, we'll see once Governor Abbott signs this bill, then goes into effect. We'll see what happens, and I pray that it. I pray that it goes. I pray it goes that way. Now we're going to go from Texas to Florida, and I'm going to share um, an X page here from Dom Luker, the breaker of narratives. He's reporting that international child pornography ring has been busted in Florida, where over 1 million videos of child porn has been recovered, including footage of infants that were abused. Florida Department of Law Enforcement Commissioner Mark Glass said that their investigation began in July of 2024 with agents checking the internet for people who sell and distribute child pornography. Glass said that in the investigation, an undercover agent found a website that had led them to uncover over 1 million videos depicting sexual abuse of minors, some as young as infants. And you wonder why I'm on here. Now, here's a little something else. And I'll bring myself back up. If you happen to be one of these individuals that visited some of these sites, guess what? They have your IP addresses. They have all the information through the servers, through the networks, and they're going to look you up. And I would say up to and including Pete. Because I almost lay you 2-1. There's child porn somewhere around Pete. I almost guarantee you that. So, they busted this child porn ring. It ain't over. It ain't over by a long shot. There's going to be investigations going out everywhere there was a connection made to to those servers. And even if you use some app or something to hide your IP address and all that, they still find you. They can still track your IP through that. So you ain't safe. Especially if you're using Bitcoin or some crap like that to buy this trash. Nah, you ain't safe. Nah, they coming for you. They coming for you. So I call him Chester the Molester. Yep. So I'm going to play this, go back here and I'm going to play this a little bit of this news conference.
We'll be bringing charges against 8 individuals this morning, 7 of whom are Florida residents. As a dad of 3 little ones, it's tough to talk about some of this stuff, but what these guys were doing was truly heinous. There's not a word in the English dictionary that can describe the gross content that was on the videos. Our investigators have been able to get their hands on over 1 million videos showing sexual abuse on minors. Many of these individuals were babies that are being sold around the world. The 2023 National Center for Missing and Exploited Children reports over 36 million instances of suspected child sexual exploitation and over 100 million files related to child sex abuse material. And that's only what's getting reported. This continues to be a problem in our country, in our state. Protecting our kids is not an easy task to begin with. And today, with the access to the internet and social media, it allows these sick predators to more easily get access to our kids. And as I've said, my first 5-6 weeks on the job here, that's going to be a major priority for my office. The individuals that are being busted today that purchase this harmful content many of them found it through TikTok. It was available online. They found access to a portal where they could purchase this dangerous material. TikTok has shown they can very quickly get stuff off their website. If there's unlicensed music or something going around, they've proven with a flip of a switch they can get it off. And it's taken too long for them to get some of this pornographic material and avenues to purchase harder, more gross content. We've got to get them to be more accountable. So we will be working on that. We are going to hold social media companies accountable that want to put our families and our kids in jeopardy. So today, these 8 defendants are being charged with multiple felony counts, including RICO, money laundering, and purchase of child pornography. Again, I can't tell you in words how gross this content is, but it shows the dangers, the evil that's out there. It is truly evil. And you've got my word that in this state, we are going to do everything we can to hold these people accountable. If you are a child predator, if you are one of these sick people, then I hope you never see the sun again. And I hope you certainly never have access to kids again.
I echo his sentiments totally, completely. They've busted 8 people, but there's going to be more. If you've been, and that's kind of astounding. Social media, TikTok, whether, TikTok in particular, or some of the others, they're so quick to pull down something that they disagree with, or if you post something political they disagree with, man, they'll pull that down in a heartbeat. They'll censor you. They'll mute you, block you, ban you. But you put up child porn and they're all for it. It's sick. It's absolutely sick. Something we'll just take a minute here and just ask, please, if you're watching, if you're watching on X or YouTube, please like the video, please share, comment, let everyone see it. If you're, like and share my channel, subscribe. If you click subscribe if you're on YouTube, click subscribe, hit that little bell and click all, so that way you get a notification when there's new content uploaded. And then like it, share it, helps the algorithm. That way you can get more content out. You can get more content. You'll know when the content's being uploaded. Important things like this. They were talking about the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And I'm going to pop over here real quick to their website. And you can kind of give, I haven't even touched on the children that are missing, that are in used as sex slaves. Children. They'll go right here. Child sex trafficking. And I am going to change this to something that's just something's a little bit easier, little bit easier to see. So just bear with me for here for just a minute. Let's bear with me for just a minute. There we go. Sorry about that. And you can report if you have a suspicion of child sex trafficking, you can go on here to their website and report it to the cyber tip line. And here's just some of the, some examples. Familial trafficking by families, child trafficked by a family member, established by blood, marriage, or adoption. This includes, but not limited to, a biological mother and or father, cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents, in-laws, etc. Then non-family trafficking, buyer perpetrated. That's where a child is bought and sold. You know, come back up here for just a second. You hear so much about the term slavery. There's a cry about slavery and reparations and all this other. Guess what? Human trafficking, child trafficking is nothing but a new fancy name for slavery. And that's all it is slavery. These people are slaves, plain and simple. They're bought and sold like cattle. They're put on a market. They're exhibited. Half of they don't even have a name. They got a number. And they have to do what the person or the people of the gang tells them to do. That or they get killed. And chances in the majority of the cases, they're killed anyway. Or they die. They die from abuse, they die from disease, they die from starvation. Yeah, I'm talking things here that you don't want to hear. Well, it's the truth. The child sex, just like with rape and sexual assault, child sex trafficking can have a devastating and immediate and long-term consequences, including health impacts, psychological and physical trauma, and even death. Prevention, education, intervention are key to keeping children safer. After making a missing child report to law enforcement, we encourage law enforcement, parents, legal guardians to report all missing children, especially children who have run away, to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Call 1-800-THE-LOST or 1-800-843-5678. Now, if you're concerned about a potential child sex trafficking activity or see situations, including the indicators listed below, please make a report to the cyber tip line or call 1-800-THE-LOST. And here's the risk factors. And understanding adverse childhood experiences as common risk factors to identify opportunities to proactively intervene in an effort to prevent child sex trafficking. We've organized these factors into 3 categories. The list is not exhaustive, but many factors may be interconnected, and I won't go through and read all of them. I would encourage you to please go visit this website, look it over. In 2024, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children received more than 27,800 reports of possible child sex trafficking. 15 is the average age of a child trafficking victim reported. 1 in 7, or more than 29,000 cases of children reported missing in 2024, are likely victims of child sex trafficking. Of the children reported in 2024 who had run from the care of child welfare, 18% were likely victims of child sex trafficking. So the National Center is taking a proactive role in helping to stop trafficking and to help with the recovery and the family advocacy and support. So, I highly recommend that that you go to the website and look at it to get the information. To get the information so you know what to look for. I mean, know what to look for there. Now, where I'm going to go to here is we're going to take a look at Idaho and what they're doing about the Idaho expands the death penalty for child predators. This is from published April 2nd of this year. Idaho governor calls child sexual abuse sickening and evil following the bill's signing. The state of Idaho recently passed a bill that was signed into law that would expand the death penalty to pedophiles. It also became the first state in the union to make a firing squad its preferred method of execution in modern times. The bill, House Bill 380, now grants a judge or jury the ability to factor in the death penalty when crimes involve lewd conduct to a child under the age of 12 are proven in trial. State law initially only allowed the death penalty in first-degree murder cases with aggravating circumstances. A mandatory minimum sentence of 25 years imprisonment with a possible maximum term of life may be imposed if the defendant is found guilty of kidnapping the victim or participating in human trafficking during the commission of or accompanied or accomplished the lewd conduct, according to the bill's language. Strengthening punishments for other convictions where obscene behavior against a minor aged 16 and younger was confirmed but didn't meet the death penalty eligibility. And the Idaho legislature nearly passed the bill unanimously. Only 5 senators opposed it during the cycle. And of course, the bleeding hearts, they expect legal challenges. And then in the past 2 years, both Tennessee and Florida have passed death penalty laws involving child rape cases. So it's the penalty. There's an old saying, make the punishment fit the crime. So, yeah, make the punishment fit the crime. Because the long-term effects of what happens with these children This cannot be discounted. Any sexual assault, whether it's a child or an adult, but especially a child. Now, we've seen what we're going to take a look at what the Bible says. What the Bible says about about harming a child. Now go back here to Matthew 18:5-7. And this is the King James Version. And whoso shall receive one of these such little child in my name receiveth me. But whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged around his neck and he were drowned in the depths of the sea. Woe unto the world because of offenses, for it must needs be that offenses come, but woe to the man by whom the offense cometh. In other words, woe to the man who does it. Now, what does the Bible say about harming children? Matthew 18:6. And we just read that. But whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, stumble, or harm, it would be better for him to have a great millstone fastened around his neck and be drowned in the depths of the sea. Ephesians 6:4. Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in discipline and instruction of the Lord. Matthew 18:10. See that you do not despise one of these little ones, for I tell you that in heaven their angels always see the face of my Father who is in heaven. Proverbs 22:6. Train up a child in the way he should go, and even when he is old, he will not depart from it. Behold, children are a heritage from the Lord, the fruit of the womb a reward. Then Mark, whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better for him if a great millstone were hung around his neck and he were thrown into the sea. Same as Matthew. Luke even writes, it would be better for him if a millstone were hung around his neck and he were cast into the sea, that he should cause one of these little ones to sin. Psalm 127:3-5. Behold, children are a heritage from the Lord, the fruit of the womb a reward. Like arrows in the hand of a warrior are children of one's youth. Blessed is the man who fills his quiver with them. He shall not be put to shame when he speaks with his enemies at the gate. And they were bringing children to him that he might touch them, but the disciples rebuked them. But when Jesus saw it, he was indignant and said to them, let the children come to me. Do not hinder them, for such belongs to the kingdom of God. Truly I say to you that whoever does not receive the kingdom of God like a little child shall not enter it. And he took them in his arms and blessed them, laying his hands upon them. And he said to his disciples, temptations to sin are sure to come, but woe to the one to whom they come. It would be better for him if a millstone were hung around his neck and he were cast into the sea, that he should cause one of these little ones to sin. I do not ask that you take them out into the world, but that you keep them. I do not ask that you take them out of the world, but that you keep them from the evil one. So as we see, the Bible is full about harming children. And here's some verses about children with Jesus. Like we just read, when Jesus saw this, he was indignant and said to them, "Permit the children to come to me. Do not hinder them, for the kingdom of God belongs to such as these." We see in Matthew, Mark, Luke is the same. Again, where the disciples rebuked them, Jesus said, "Let the children alone and do not hinder them coming to me, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these." And in Luke, and they were bringing even their babies to him that he would touch them. And again, of course, this expands a little bit more on it. In Matthew 18, 2-5, and he called the child to himself and set him before them and said, "Truly I say to you, unless you are converted and become like children, you do not enter the kingdom of heaven. Whoever then humbles himself as a child, he is great in the kingdom of heaven." In a very powerful verse right here. "So it is not the will of your Father who is in heaven that one of these little ones perish." So as we see, Jesus is very plain, speaks very plainly about children, to protect children. Parents, it's up to you to protect your children, all the children. Adults, it's our responsibility to protect children. If you see child trafficking, call the police. If you suspect something, call the police. If it's nothing, turns out to be nothing, no harm, no foul. But if it does turn out to be something, you might have just saved that child's life. In law enforcement, we've got a saying: just don't look right. I mean, that's just very plain. JDLR, just don't look right. Forget the perfect English. Or just doesn't look right. And deep inside, you look at something, and if there's just something about it, well, that's where it comes from. You have a hunch. And I was going to say that, through this, there, there's a reason why that I've felt the Lord impress upon me to do this video. Mock me if you like. I don't care. I'm in good company. But it's up to us to protect the children. And all of them. So if you see something, say something. Don't just blow it off. "Oh, I don't know. I don't want to get involved." All of a sudden you might find out later on that that one you could have helped was the one that you're reading about that died. Like I say, it's very personal for me. And that's why I'm here today with you, talking about this. It's pretty, that's pretty intense. If you don't know what that is, that's a picture of the, I believe that's in Idaho. That's the chair for the firing squad. And those are bags of sand to catch any ricochets. So I'm not, I'm not playing here. I'm very serious. Usually try and have something a little light, but this isn't light. This is, this is very serious. And I'm going to bring this back up. The National Sexual Assault Hotline, 1-800-656-HOPE. Help 24/7. You can call or chat. Then there's the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, the 1-800 The Lost. Use these resources. Use them. Bring, let's all band together for children, all the children. Yes, there was one little child in Texas that really got all this started. Baby lamb. And I'm praying fervently that God will bring an end to this disaster, that God will open all this up. And I see that he's doing it. This Trey's law in Texas, that's God. NDAs covering it up, they'll be a thing of the past in Texas. And to me, if you've signed an NDA, bring myself up a little bigger here. If you've signed an NDA to cover up a sexual assault that has happened, and you're letting that wording of that NDA scare you, or that you might be held in violation of it or whatever, what's worth more? That NDA or the well-being of a sexual assault victim. Speak up. I know it's easy for me to say sitting here, but what's more important? Justice and the welfare of a child, or an NDA that I would say that the attorneys will have declared null and void. That more than likely the judge will declare that NDA null and void because it's covering up a criminal action. That's conspiracy. And to me, conspiracy and witness tampering. I'm not a lawyer. I don't profess to be one, but that just appears to be those two elements. They're having you sign that to cover up a crime. So, leave that for the legals to fight. But, I would talk to an attorney. If you know of a sexual assault and you've had to sign an NDA, and Daystar, I'm talking to you, Daystar employees, I'd go to an attorney. Take your NDA, go to an attorney. Go to the prosecutor. Walk in the prosecutor's office and present it to them. See what they say. That's your best bet. Is go talk to them. Be guided by what an attorney or the prosecutor says. They're the ones that's going to give you the best protection. You know, at the end of every video, I always give opportunity. You know, if you don't know Jesus, I always give you the opportunity to come to Jesus. Jesus loves you. Jesus wants you safe. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here putting myself out front and center with this video, is to help protect you, to help protect those that are in danger, and to give a voice for the voiceless. You're not alone. If you're a victim of sexual assault, you're not alone. There are advocates there for you. That's why I have that up on rain up on the screen. So, you know, contact them. Contact 911. You know, we're here for you. And if you don't know Jesus, just say a simple prayer. Just cry. All you have to do, you cry out to him. You're, like I said, you're not alone. Just say, Jesus, I need you. And he'll be there. He'll show up. You know, if you want to go a little more into it, then you just say a simple prayer. You can just say, Heavenly Father, I know that I'm a sinner and I've made many mistakes, but I believe Jesus died for me. And I believe that you raised him from the dead. Please forgive me. I accept you now by faith. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for forgiving me. In Jesus' name, amen. It's that simple. It's all you have to do. And you've taken a step in a whole nother world. You know, if you have any questions, please email me, joel2@joel2revival.org, or you can message me on X, Facebook, or YouTube. I'll be happy to help you find a spirit-filled, Bible-believing church. That's the best step you can take. You know, if you're a victim of sexual assault, please contact the National Sexual Assault Hotline, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children at 1-800-THE-LOST, or call 911. That's the simplest. Call 911. The police will be there to help you. Again, I thank you all so much for being with me today. Thank you very, very much. I know this has been a very deep subject, a very important subject, but please like, share, subscribe. Please share this video. If you're on X, please like the video and please share it. Please let others know about it because it's very important. Again, I thank you so very much for being with me today. Remember, Jesus is Lord. He died for you. He loves you. And all you have to do is cry out to him and he'll be there for you. And until next time, thank you so very much. Have a blessed day.